Welcome to another episode of Talking Decon. Today we are talking about an infamous killer from Philadelphia, Gary Heidnik. Mariah, tell us all about this one. It's crazy.
Okay, so before I start off, I'm a huge fan of a specific Parcast, so that's where I will be referencing, and also the AP News. So Gary Heidnik was infamous in Philadelphia. He wreaked havoc from November of 1986 up until March of 1987. He kidnapped, raped, and tortured 6 women, and of the 6, 2 of them were killed. And he kept them in a pit in his basement. So can you just imagine being like cramped in this tight pit with 5 other people? It's like all of us, in a pit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated my apartment in New York, which was tiny, and I had full control of whether or not I could leave. So staying in a pit would be no good.
Yeah.
And there was a pit within the pit, too.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a basement, and then you'll get to it.
Yeah, so it was a basement, and then within that basement, he dug a pit. So his
Like a dirt floor pit that he just dug?
Yeah, so his plan was to basically kidnap and rape 10 women, because he wanted to impregnate all of them. He wanted, I don't know if it was some hyper masculinity type thing or
He wanted to have family
yeah,
with
he
each
just
one
wanted a
of them.
family.
Yeah.
So his victim profile were Black women, intellectually disabled, and he propositioned all of them for sex. So that's how he was able to bring them back to his place.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe there were sex workers as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2 of them, right?
No, he had sex with all of them. Like he brought them all back.
No, like 2 of them were sex workers. Yeah.
Yes, they were.
Wow.
Yeah, so he believed the world owed him a family. And I don't think the world really owes you anything.
Yeah.
Especially if you
That's for sure.
yeah.
Well, certainly not somebody else's body.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, he had a history, too. He had another intellectually disabled, I believe she was also Black, girlfriend or partner at the time. And before all of this, before he did all the kidnapping, and he got her pregnant, and then he kept her on a strict diet the entire time. She only gained 5 pounds by the time she had the baby. So obviously her family was like, we gotta get the out of here, and got her away from him, and he lost custody and all that. So I think a lot of this was that, like, that's why he felt the world owed, again, not justifying any of it, but that's where his brain was at, was like, they took away my baby that I abused and neglected, so now I need more.
And the crazy thing is, like, he was, already, like, abusing her for a while and stuff, and then so he had, like, tenants and stuff. I don't know, was it, like, above or around?
Above, yeah.
It was above them. And they were like, hey, girl, like, he's kind of crazy. Like, you need to go. Like, he's torturing you, like, abusing you. This isn't right. And they already recognized that,
Yeah,
Wow.
and that was from a prior relationship, too. So the one that Evan is talking about. Oh. Yeah, so he moved from that home into the home that Evan is talking about. But, yeah, so with the child in play, with the world owning him a family, he was also married to a woman from the Philippines, but he was abusing her, and she found out she was pregnant, so she left. So 2 kids lost right there.
Did she got an abortion, right?
Yeah, I think that's the one that got an abortion, right?
Not this one, not the one he was married to.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So one of his victims did get an abortion, though.
Wasn't that the one that was the disabled one, and then the sister, and then he tried impregnating the aunt or the...
Yeah, so the one that Evan mentioned earlier, Anjanette. Anjanette was his girlfriend. She was the one who was pregnant, who only gained 5 pounds. And then, he wanted to start his little cult, and he ended up getting a day pass because his Anjanette's sister, Alberta, she was living in a mental institution. So they got a day pass. They never brought her back. And then they didn't bring her back.
Oh,
and
my God.
when they went to go find her, she was locked up in the basement, chained up to the wall. And when they, examined her, they saw she was raped.
And this is all before the 6 women that he kidnapped and eventually murdered. Like, he got busted for this, and he still wasn't put in jail.
Exactly. And listen to this. He only served 3 years for that.
Oh my God.
Because Alberta couldn't testify because the court just didn't rule her as
because she was
competent enough.
intellectually disabled.
Yeah. So So
So he picked the perfect
Yeah,
victim.
yeah, they
Yeah.
become the perfect victim. Right?
Yep,
there.
exactly.
Almost all of his targets were intellectually disabled, and it was. I mean, I remember hearing in the Parcast podcast that he, because he got mentally evaluated before all this, and they realized like a common trend was he felt very threatened by any woman that he felt either intellectually or emotionally equal to. So, of course, he went to people that were intellectually disabled and stuff because he was like, okay, well, this works because you're a lesser than me, and that's how it's supposed to be. And it was screwed up. It wasn't just that it was an easy target. It was he was, like, socially more comfortable with people like that.
Yeah, because it all comes back to power, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I can easily exert power over this situation.
Did he have a
Exactly.
job? Did he work?
He made money off the stock market.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
yeah,
and
his
it was also
church.
100.
yeah.
We didn't even talk about his church.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Look, this goes deep, man. So he was also a veteran. He was discharged, so he was on 100% disability. So he was able to get those checks. And then I think he worked for a nursing home for a bit. And then he was like, he drove out to California, had some sort of revelation, came back to Philadelphia, and started this church. I believe it was called the Church of...
the United Church of the Ministers of God.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was specifically catered toward individuals with intellectual disabilities.
So, and it was a perfect front too, because it looked like, oh, here's this guy who starts a church who's trying to help, people with, mental disabilities, and that's so cool. It's so good of him taking these women. That
He
can
probably
take care of
used them as
themselves.
his victims.
But
Absolutely.
there's no better PR, right? Like, it's like I'm helping, underprivileged people. And he started, when he started that church, he started an account with Merrill Lynch with $1,500, and he grew that to $500,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah, in the 70s.
By stock trading?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
he actually knew what he was doing.
Yeah, like he could have been like, and I think that this comes back to, not to absolve anybody or anything, but in his childhood he had a major head trauma, right? Which so many of these cases, there's always that commonality, and that doesn't absolve anybody. But yeah, like it seems like he had some capabilities, he had something, but something went desperately wrong for him, and I don't know if it can be traced back to that moment or not.
His brother even said after that happened that like something snapped in him. He used to be like playful with animals and stuff like that, and then he started like torturing animals and stuff like that, which, as we know, is like another go-to correlation with serial killers.
What's
is
his family situation?
abusive?
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very abusive.
I
Okay.
believe his mother was an alcoholic.
I think his
dad?
dad remarried, and his stepmom was like even less so empathetic, and
The dad was an asshole too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the things that the dad was doing, like if he peed the bed, he'd make him hang the sheets on the window so everyone would
Yeah.
see. And he would like put a target on his butt, and then so when they like go to school, the kids would kick him in the
he set up his
Wow.
son to be bullied.
Yeah.
He went
Yeah.
out of his way to make sure his son would be bullied. Like,
Exactly.
And then what they were saying in the Parcast too, a lot of kids who experience like a childhood like head trauma, their rates of like deadly crime like significantly increase, which is
Now, what was the head trauma?
he like fell off from a tree and
Oh,
hit a
tree,
rock
yeah.
or something,
Okay.
and then they start calling him football.
Which
So
let me
yeah,
say-
let's go ahead.
if you look at pictures, so first of all, it's weird. He only looked like this for a little while. You see, there's only one picture where I can see this head deformity, and it's like a high school picture or something like that. When you cut to like his mug shots and stuff, his head looks like it expanded. But that's a whole other thing. More importantly, his head did not look like a football head. What do you think of when you think of football head? You think of Stewie from Family Guy.
Exactly.
You think of Hey Arnold. There's a plethora of football head examples. This guy looked like Bert from Sesame Street. And that's that.
Yeah, super long.
Very
super
passionate
long head.
about that.
Yeah. So anyway,
Kids don't know how to bully properly. That's all I'm saying.
So that's the takeaway from this conversation. Get your facts right if you're going to
Yeah,
bully somebody.
Exactly. Lazy bullying leads to serial killers.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. So anyways, I believe his sinister intentions were foreshadowed. Yeah, but definitely. Oh yeah, definitely the head trauma. But also in his previous Philadelphia home, where his tenants were living, he started to dig up another pit. So the new owners, when they were just befuddled, aghast when they saw the trash all over the floor, bullet holes, old drugs, and when they went to the basement, they saw that there was a pit being dug.
A crypt, a pit, just hole in this like seedy cellar basement.
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Very Buffalo Bob, right?
Buffalo
Bill?
Bill.
Buffalo Bob.
Bill.
He's a
Buffalo-
cowboy.
Yeah, another fun fact. Yeah, so he was one of the. Yeah, so Gary Heidnik was the inspiration for Buffalo Bill.
One of
Silence
the
Lambs.
inspirations.
Yeah, one of the
Because like
inspirations.
Buffalo Bill's like an amalgamation of like also like I think there's another killer that was like wearing the skin of people and doing all that
Right.
kind of thing. But then this was the kidnapping inspiration for Buffalo Bill.
Okay, so in November, I believe it was November 25th, 1986, that's when he kidnapped his first victim, Josefina Rivera. He propositioned her for sex, and then he, after they had intercourse, he choked her and then threw her in his new basement pit. His next victim was Sandra Lindsay. He had gotten her pregnant before, but she had an abortion. So this upset him, and he even offered her $1,000 to get her pregnant again. Not in this day and age. You cannot offer me $1,000. Yeah. Yeah. And then his next victim was Lisa Thomas. He drugged her wine before locking her up. So after he kidnapped Sandra, he had Sandra and Josefina dig the pit deeper and wider because he wanted to kidnap 10 women.
There's something really creepy about that to me. It's the same idea when you see a scene in a movie or hear a story where they make you dig your own grave and you're doing your own.
Oh, yeah.
It's I don't know what it is, man.
It's mental.
It's so ominous. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
ominous. It's so disturbing. We're like, why am I doing this? Why am I like? Look, I don't want to do hard labor anyways.
Yeah.
This is why I can never be a tech.
Just shoot.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then his next victim was Deborah Dudley, and Jacqueline Askins was his last victim before he started killing. And this was he kidnapped all these women within 2 months. All right, so
Oh, I didn't realize the time period was just 2 months.
2 months. Yeah,
Holy
so
crap.
the end of November into the middle of January of 1987. Yeah.
Was anybody even looking for these women or no? Because they were prostitutes or whatever.
The only woman that people were looking for was Sandra Lindsay. So her family, because he sent a runaway letter. He forced Sandra to write a runaway letter, and he drove it up to New York and left it in in her mother's mailbox. Yeah, because they were looking for him.
Yeah.
And they even went to police to let them know, we think Gary
He did it, yeah.
took Sandra because.
And they didn't arrest him or anything. They didn't even investigate it. And that's like the sad thing
I know.
too.
Wasn't
This
it-
could have been prevented.
There was one, I don't know if it was of these women or of his earlier horrible abuse and marriage cases, but like there was one time when like police, like someone referred to, it was probably Gary Heidnik, but then police like spelled his name wrong when they looked him up in the system, and that's why they didn't find him. Because he had prior arrest charges,
Yeah.
but they didn't know who he was.
So I have a question, Laura. Okay, so he was in jail prior to whatever he was doing before. They noted him. They think he was going to be dangerous and a potential problem to society. Obviously, he got let go on probation, everything, and was re-released. But is there a system? I don't know. Back then, it might be different, but like now, maybe to keep up on these people to make sure, like to keep dip or tabs and.
Not to my knowledge. Once they're off parole and probation, they've done their time.
But don't.
They roam.
I wonder if he would be considered a sex offender though, even though it's spousal
Well,
rape.
then you're watched forever.
Yeah.
They probably didn't. I'm sure it's the.
I don't know if they
80s.
had it. Yeah.
Yeah.
As strict as they do now.
Well, that and his victims were not white people or neurotypical, so I'm sure they just completely disregarded it.
That's kind of what they did with the one that he sent the runaway letter to. It almost seemed like they're like, she's just like another runaway and stuff,
Yeah.
and they just like disregarded everything and went along.
You'll see a consistent trend of police completely disregarding the legitimacy and safety of these women, like even until the point where Gary actually gets busted for it. They really drug
Yeah,
him.
they were like almost incredulous about
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this story is too crazy.
Yeah. So his first murder was Sandra. So Sandra, and this one really breaks my heart because her family was looking for her, and they implicated Gary. So Sandra. So also the poor treatment of these women. Like he had a lot of them half naked. He made them rape each other.
I didn't know they're raping each other.
Yeah, he made them rape each other.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he would pit them against each other by picking a favorite of the day.
So what was down in this basement? Just mattresses or nothing at all? Or?
I think there was one mattress. I think the hole was mainly used as like punishment and intimidation, right?
Yeah.
So not
I think
everyone
so.
was in the hole? Some were just sitting in the basement and chained or what?
I think weren't they like, because when they found them, they said at least the last victims were chained to the wall. And then one of them was in a pit and he put like sandbags and planks on top of her.
So she almost couldn't breathe.
Yeah. So thankfully she made it out alive, but it was a torture den pretty much. So they were chained and just.
And he was feeding them dog food. Yeah.
Oh
so,
my God.
Yep. So, which was a reason I believe, and a lot of the reports that I saw believe Sandra was sick. But Gary thought she was pregnant. But it turns out she was sick. She had a fever. This upset him to the point where he chained her to like a roof beam, and she was hanging for 2 days. Yeah.
From just one wrist too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had her up like that.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
That's
then.
like almost being crucified at that point, like just that pressure.
Well, she died from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It literally
It
suffocated
killed her.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. oh, that's awful.
And so to get rid of the body, Gary dismembered her with a power saw, I believe. Yeah. So he put her head in a cooking pot. He put her arms and legs in his freezer and her ribs in a roasting pot. And he actually cooked her.
Cook the meat off. Yeah.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was this victim or the next person that died, because only 2 women ended up dying, right?
Yeah.
It's either this one or the next one. He then ground up her meat and put it in the dog food that he was feeding to them.
Yeah.
He fed
her to the
one of
woman.
his victims to the other victim.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He fed his women to the victims and to his dogs. He fed Sandra to.
Did the women know they were eating
Yep.
a human?
Because they could smell her. So Josephina.
Oh.
Yeah, Josephina was his favorite, and this was also the first woman that he captured. Yeah, so and because she was more compliant with him, he treated her as a favorite. So he brought her upstairs from the basement to see what he did to Sandra. So like, if you try something, this is your fate. Yeah, so the neighbors could smell Sandra being cooked, and they called the police. And he was nonchalant about it. When the police asked him what was going on, he's like, oh, I burnt a roast. And police were satisfied with the answer and went about their day.
He said, "That's okay.
Yeah.
You can keep it."
Yeah. Seriously.
He was in prison,
Yeah.
a convicted felon, and they just take his word for it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the house was weird. People are saying like the prostitutes and stuff that would go in and stuff, they're like, the house is fucking weird. So I'm like,
Wow.
it's creepy.
Yeah, people know you can't have a basement like that and then everything is hunky dory upstairs. Like that's
Yeah.
And neighbors know stuff, even if they don't recognize it right away. Like if you talk to somebody, everybody knows who the weird guy is in the neighborhood.
He's
no
probably
way.
that one.
And if you don't, you're the weird guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, exactly. So then his next murder was of Deborah Dudley. She was his most defiant. So she was always trying to find some way to escape. And even at one point, Deborah wanted to rally up the women to attack Gary. But Josephina, like I said, she was her mental state was to survive and do anything
the
she could to
Stockholm
survive.
syndrome,
Exactly,
you know? Yeah.
exactly. So she told Gary about the attack before it could happen. So Gary, his form of punishment and his way to resolve the problem was to drive screwdrivers in their ears. He thought that would keep them from communicating with each other, and they wouldn't be able to hear him when he would
trying to
leave.
deafen him, right?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that.
They wouldn't know if help was nearby and like when to yell. They couldn't communicate.
So he would
with each
just
other.
stick it in there and pierce the eardrum.
Try
Oh,
to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have to do that multiple times? Like, doesn't your eardrum heal and
Well-
then you might have to do it again?
I watched a couple interviews with Josephina and Jacqueline, like from fairly recently. I think within the last 10
Oh,
years
wow.
or so. Because those four survived, and they didn't appear to be completely deaf. So I don't know. I'm sure they were affected by it, but I don't know how lasting it was. And like I remember, I think they were saying that he tried to burst our eardrums. I don't know if he was successful, but he definitely fucked up their ears.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, like, how are they now? Or 10 years ago, whenever this was.
They look healthy. I mean, they're talking about because Josephina, like I said, sometimes she would like kind of turn them in and do what she could to like kind of keep a leg up on them. And again, it was Stockholm syndrome and also her own survival. But I mean, like, he would use her to torture them and stuff like that.
So they felt like she should have been prosecuted as well.
Yeah.
There was some talk about Deborah.
Yeah.
Talk about what happened to Deborah.
So off of that, Gary he put Jacqueline, Lisa, and Deborah in a pit. The pit that he normally keeps them in and filled with cold water. And he told Josephina to wrap a live wire on their chains. And Deborah was the one that succumbed to that, and she passed away.
So he electrocuted her.
Yep.
And they were using that as just like it was just a punishment at first. It wasn't just to electrocute them until they died. But then Deborah was like face first in the puddle. So she probably, passed out and then drowned in it. And Jacqueline was trying to be like, hey, there's a dead body in here. Like, she's not looking okay and stuff. But they just wouldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, so he took Josephina to the woods with Deborah's body, and they dumped her there. So
and then, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, the up thing about that is he like made them write and co-sign a letter like, I helped, aided, killed this woman, and they're like, if you guys ever try to run away, betray me, whatever, I have like, this is evidence that you guys are active participants and you're going to be tried
You
too.
actually thought that would hold weight?
I know, which, supposedly he had like 130 IQ and was like close to genius level.
Yeah,
he was
really smart.
But like,
I
there's
think it was
something.
148, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 148.
He just
Yeah.
saw trends and he was able to make money off that.
Yeah,
like-
but there's some things that, well, I think obviously with like his mental illness and all that stuff, it probably, I don't know.
But whether or not he thought it would hold up in a court of law is very different than whether or not he thought he could use it to control these women. Yeah.
That's true.
Like even if it wasn't like his plan to absolve himself, it could very easily become, you're in this now. Like, you've done this thing. Right. We're the same. Right. We're not any different. You're just in the pit. I control the pit. But we are all of the pit.
Well, at that point, see, specifically with Josephina, like, she was so in deep, and he used that to like kind of seal the deal with her. He let her up out of the basement. He let her like roam throughout the house, and according to the podcast, they were saying that like it got to a point where he kind of just treated her like what he thought was a normal boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Yeah, she was unchained.
Yeah.
And that really speaks to the delusion and the ignorance, right? Like, because it becomes, I've done it. Yeah. She really likes me. Yeah. This is wonderful. Yeah. I've achieved my goal.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, so we know Josephina, at this point, people were kind of against her. She was technically responsible for Deborah's death. Gary kind of confided in her, but then what happens with her after all that?
After they killed Deborah, they went out and kidnapped Agnes Adams. So this was to replace...
Together?
Yep. Yeah, they went. Yeah,
she was in.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so they went out to replace just one of.
Where they just get her off the street?
Yeah. So they brought her back and they chained her up. So fast forward a couple days, Josephina asked Gary if she could go out to see her family. He said yeah, because at this point he's like, I got her confession letter. She signed it.
She also said she would bring back another woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
She's kidnapping people with me. I finally got my partner. Yeah.
Yep. So instead of going out to see family, she goes to an old boyfriend's house, and she just explains everything to him, what happened, and this madhouse. And so they ended up calling the police, and they set Gary up, and they meet him in a parking lot, I believe. Yeah. But Gary thought it was for child support because, he has two kids.
Is that what he thought?
Yeah. When he first saw police, but then he sees Josephina get out of the car, and he's like, "Oh, okay, the gig is up."
And she's like, "That's him. That's the guy."
Exactly.
But then they arrest him, right? But then she's like, "There's like 4 other women in this house." In the
She had to
basement.
beg him to go look for him.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing from the podcast was it took them 4 hours from the time that they got him back to the police station and they went to the house. That I can't get my brain around.
I'm just
that.
wondering if they were waiting on a search warrant.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Because that's not quick.
No.
Because they said in the podcast, though, they were like, once they got the warrant to go, they went.
Do you have to wait for a search warrant? Even in that situation, there's women trapped in there. I know it because I was in there.
Yep. Did he admit it?
Oh yeah, he can't.
That's my house.
Yeah.
He could have said, I have a roommate. I didn't do it.
Yeah, I remember reading. I believe it was an article from Oxygen, but he tried to say the women were living there before or when he bought the house.
Yeah, they were there when he moved in.
I found these women.
So you're gonna love this place. It's got a pool out back, plenty of seating.
4 chicks in a pit.
And, yeah, 4 chicks in a pit. New on CBS.
Oh,
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
my favorite Zillow filter to click on.
What's the pit situation like here?
So in court, Gary tried to claim insanity, but he couldn't because one, with his stalks with the church, they were able to put that against him, and also it was deliberate when he had Sandra write that letter, and then he drove it all the way up to her family's house and to place it in the mailbox. So they're like, that's not reason of insanity.
Yeah, that's always showing too that I know that what I'm doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the things with insanity. I'm obviously not a lawyer. Look at me, but that's always the thing, right? Do you understand? Were you able to comprehend right and wrong? You know, and when you start covering up your crimes, I think that.
Yeah, there was a lot of preparation that went into this, so it's kind of hard to say, hey, I was insane the whole time. It wasn't spontaneous. This had a lot of preparation.
Because it looks insane.
Like 2 bodies he had to cover up and cut up and try to hide. So that shows right there. Oh, I know I'm not supposed to kill people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is too, or not really sad, but just the up thing. Like, and they were saying how manipulative he is. Like, he's very cunning and he knows what he's doing. Like, he dressed in the same outfit for every trial day that he was there. Wow. Same outfit. And it was weird because it was like a fringe jacket and like a Hawaiian shirt.
He looked like the Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet. like he looked like Leonardo.
Was that on
DiCaprio
purpose though, to show the jury that, hey, I am crazy?
I think so. That, to me, if you're dressing in the same outfit every day for your trial, like that, like he's trying to make them feel some type of way. He's
It was
trying
20
to show
years
them.
before the movie, so it definitely wasn't a reference to that.
Yeah, it was pretty short too. It was from June to July.
What'd the jury say?
Oh, they found him guilty. So he was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 5 of kidnapping, 6 of rape, 4 of aggravated assault, and 1 of involuntary deviant sexual intercourse. So, and they sentenced him to death. But even then, he tried to control, because this guy has, like we said, a control problem. So he tried to expedite his execution
And kill himself.
Kill himself. He just wanted to take back some sort of control. But you know, he got his day and he was injected. He died of lethal injection on July 6th, 1999.
I think at one point his daughter tried to stick up for him.
Yeah.
Right? The daughter that he
never met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and she never met him, and I think that's why she tried to stick up. And I was like, well, a dad's a dad, so maybe this isn't all true.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. So exactly.
So let's talk about the survivors. Like, what happened? What'd they do?
Well, with Josephina, I have the information on Josephina. So immediately after the trial, she returned back to the streets as a sex worker, as a prostitute. But that only lasted about a year. And she said, this is from the Philadelphia Inquirer. She said, quote, "My judgment wasn't clear. I just couldn't tell the difference between a nut and a sane person," which is totally understandable, you know. And then over the years, she worked various jobs as a waitress, clerk, security guard, daycare worker. She's reconnected with her 3 children. She's a grandmother. She married in 2001, divorced 4 years later. She's now on welfare and lives with her fiancé, who is a quiet, unassuming house painter who acts as her protector, and they live in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment in Atlantic City. And so hopefully she at least found some peace.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, I can't imagine. You know, I mean, I would be scared constantly all the time. Yeah. You know,
Couldn't trust anyone.
And then you have to deal with, especially her as well. Like, she's not only a survivor, but she took part in some acts to save herself. You know,
But the guilt on
the guilt on top of that, of course.
PTSD on top.
Yeah.
Oh, it's severe. I don't think they'll ever get over it. What about the others?
Thomas and Adams, who was abducted, she was the last one abducted. This is from the Oxygen.com. They were never able to recover from the experience and have dealt with mental health issues and addictions in the years since. So I'd imagine it's a very sad story for both of them. If they
Yeah,
didn't
I
go into
mean, their
details.
life is ruined. They can never lead a normal life again.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not like there's like a substantial victims fund for them too. You know, they're essentially
They got $30,000 all the survivors received.
Oh my God, that doesn't even pay for the therapy.
No.
No. So, and how, like, when you have that kind of PTSD after and stuff, like holding a job after that, how do you have goals
Where
after
did
that?
his
You
like
know?
estate go? Because if he had money too, So like
Probably his daughter, maybe. I don't know.
I feel like the
No,
survivors.
his
they
daughter was
probably
taken-
seized it and maybe separated. That's where the 30 grand came from. I don't know.
Could be.
Because
Yeah.
his daughter was taken out of his custody.
Maybe that's what he had.
And
150 grand.
something I think is ironic about this is he specifically targeted black women because he told his previous tenants, the Rogers, that black people treat him better. So
That's what he said.
that's what he said.
He also told them there was going to be a race war.
And a race war too, yeah. But that's how you repay. It's just like, oh, these people treat me. I don't know. I just think I can't imagine treating someone that way anyway. But I'm like, oh, like these people treat me great. Let me
I'm sure
lock them up. And
he probably saw compassion as weakness. You know, he probably saw that as like, oh, well, this is nicer to me, but that means they're weak. You know,
But he was racist too. So remember the control thing? He was trying to find the people that he thought was like so low, like beneath him. And they were saying the neighbors caught him. He was reading like Aryan race, like type books and like Nazi shit. So like.
And it's so impossible to try to make heads or tails of it. It's so illogical, right? Not that racism has any logic to it at all, but like I want to start a family, but I'm going to start with this what I believe to be an inferior race. It's like, what are you? But again, it's like trying to look at a crazy person and go, hey, buddy, that doesn't make sense. Your logic falls apart a bit there. And then I do have one final update on the last victim who survived. She lives in Philadelphia. She cleans houses. She's on medication to deal with her anxiety and trauma, as one would expect. She told Huffington Post that she suffers from intense flashbacks and still can't enter any basement.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to be, what, in their 60s now, right?
Yeah, right around
Because this
there.
happened in the 80s.
Yeah. And they're in their 20s at the time,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Jesus.
So Laura, how would you approach, I guess, this crime scene as a technician?
I would buy the house and I would burn it down. No, seriously. That's some bad juju right there.
Yeah.
That's bad juju.
Like, people have asked, I'm sure everybody's had these conversations, especially in the line of work they're in, where it's like, would you ever live in a hoarding house, or would you ever live in a house where
That's
murder was-
different.
Exactly. There's too much, I don't know. There's too much energy in a place like that. There's too much pain, suffering. Like, why not just tear it down?
Yeah, that's
You know?
something that just needs to be burned to the ground. And I don't know what happened to the house, but burned to the ground and, make that a memorial or erect a new house on it.
That's
or
what
something.
happened to the Knoxville
Yes.
slayings. We were talking about the Shannon
Exactly.
Christian and
And that's exactly what it should have been. That's a house of torture. It should just be burned down.
whether or not you believe in spirits or whatever you believe in, even if you believe in nothing, just the guy, there's nothing after that. It's like there's still, like you said, there's still just, I don't know.
To share the pain.
Yeah.
Up northeast, that's where you do your laundry. You have them in the basement. I can't imagine going up and down every day and
No way.
just feeling that.
Because you would. There would be a heaviness in
Suffering.
there.
Oh, yeah.
There's the pit. There's the wall. This is because the wall, like, if you don't tear it down, it's the same walls. It's the same
You can
concrete
paint it, you
that's
can do whatever
poured.
you want.
Yeah.
It's not going away.
Yeah. And I don't know. It takes a different type of person than me to be able to just go, well, whatever. That happened 10 years ago. It's not on me.
Yeah, but I mean, they kept talking about the stench of it. So when you burn human flesh, it's a smell like no other. It's it's hard to even describe.
And it's different than like decomp smell.
Oh,
right?
big time. No comparison to it. It's something that
Have you smelled that before?
I have. I worked an accident where two 16-year-old kids were racing, and they wrecked, and the car caught on fire, and their bodies were inside, and all you could smell was the burned flesh.
I think I would smell delicious. To be perfectly honest with you. I got a lot of good marbling.
I'd like to smell like a Krispy Kreme donut if I had a choice, just saying. And I might, since I indulge everyone.
Look, yeah, that's the next step science takes. We can have you smell however you want to during the cremation process.
I think I would just smell like burnt hair product. Yeah. just like when you spray hairspray into a lighter and
It's just different, and it's different. Like the smell of decomp is different on an animal than a human. It's very different. Everybody has smelled kind of an animal. You're driving down the street and it's very gamey.
Yeah.
Humans are more rotten egg smell.
Right. Because
Spoiled food.
in doing the filming of jobs with our company. I've been to several decomps in the past couple months, and this is the first time I started seeing decomps after like 6 months of working here. And yeah, it's like it's putrid. Like it's similar to a smell of feces and stuff too. There's like that weird, like I don't even know how else to describe it besides putrid. But mixed with like the fats and like the kind of sweet smells and stuff like that.
Like rotting garbage.
Yeah.
Almost.
Oh, it's very much rotting garbage. Yeah.
I'd say the sweetness to me is what really sticks out. At my first decomp, I was like, it smells bad, putrid, like you said, but there's just sharp, sweet smell.
And diet makes a difference.
Yeah.
I've done cleanups for Indian people, and their smell, maybe because of the curries or the type of food, actually burned my nose.
Really?
Yes. Really? It would burn my nose, and it was overwhelming. Yeah. Overwhelming. It has been the strongest smell I've ever had.
I kind of want to like smell all the different worlds of decomp now.
I don't like it. I gotta tell you, I don't like it that you say it in a whisper like that. That somehow makes it more. I kind of want to smell all the different worlds of decomp.
Welcome to my scratch and sniff of the world.
But I mean, it's kind of interesting. I do really like it. Makes sense, like the diet and stuff. But like, I would like to know.
Check out our next perfume line. Around the world. The
Spicy
decomp.
Indian decomp.
It's like Epcot, but if everyone died.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
So, anything else to wrap this one up? This was a crazy, crazy case. Thank you for picking this one because I had not heard of this before. I don't know if you guys had, but
no, this was new for me, and I sort of like this world a lot. And when she brought this one up, I'm like, I never even heard that guy's name before. Yeah, dark, man. So dark.
Yeah.
He's the only, I believe, to this day, the only person to get the death penalty in Pennsylvania, right? Might want to fact check me on that.
He's the third person to be given the death penalty since
but
they reinstated it in 2011.
Okay.
But maybe at the time he was.
I think he was so he was the third since 2011? Or wait.
or third ever.
As of 2021, he was the last person to have been executed by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He remains the third of only 3 people to be executed in Pennsylvania since the resumption of the death penalty.
So significantly smaller amount of people than any other state.
So if you were a serial killer, you might want to go to Pennsylvania. Just saying.
And that's your serial killer tip from Laura Small.
There's your tip. You're welcome. I will send you an invoice. Anyway, thank you for watching today's episode of Talking Decon. Till next time.